Okay, let's dive into something that trips up a lot of folks in engineering and physics, the Green's function and the transfer function. They sound kind of similar, right? They're often used to analyze the same kinds of systems, but are they actually the same thing?
So what's the deal here? Are we just looking at two different names for the exact same idea? You know, maybe it's just a classic case of physicists and engineers using their own jargon for the same concept.
Well, the short answer is they are incredibly close, but they are not identical. And honestly, understanding that small but crucial difference is the key to everything. So let's unpack it.
To really get this, we've got to look at a system in two completely different ways. We're going to start with the first view, its impulse response.
This is the world of the Green's function. Now, the formal definition is that it's the system's response to a point impulse. So what does that mean in plain English? Just think of it as a single, instantaneous kick or poke at one specific point in space and at one specific moment in time. The Green's function describes literally everything that happens as a result of that one poke.
This question just perfectly captures the whole idea. Imagine dropping a single pebble into a perfectly still pond. The Green's function is the description of that spreading ripple. It's the system's complete, total reaction to one single, sharp event.
So that's the pebble in a pond view. But there's a totally different way to look at the exact same system. Let's shift our perspective over to its frequency response.
And this is where the transfer function comes into play. Instead of a single tap, I want you to imagine a continuous input, like a steady musical note that just keeps on going. The transfer function tells us exactly how the system changes that note. For any frequency you put in, it describes what's going to come out the other side.
You know, a great analogy for this is a stereo's graphic equalizer. The transfer function is basically asking for every single one of those frequency sliders, from the deep booming bass to the super high treble, how does the system change it? How much does it amplify it, and does it add any kind of delay or phase shift? It's a full breakdown, frequency by frequency.
So we have the single tab view from the Green's function, and we have the continuous wave view from the transfer function. They really seem like they're from totally separate worlds, don't they? Well, here's the twist. They're just two sides of the same coin.
The bridge that connects them is this incredibly powerful mathematical tool, the Fourier transform. Think of it like a translator. If you take the Green's function, the system's response to that single tap, and you run it through the Fourier transform, what you get on the other side is the transfer function. It's a direct conversion from one view to the other.
So the crucial point here is this. They are two different languages describing the exact same system. The Green's function describes the system's behavior using the language of time and space. The transfer function describes that very same behavior, but it uses the language of frequency. All right, so we've seen the tap view, the frequency view, and the mathematical bridge that connects them. So, what's the final verdict here?
First off, the most important conclusion. The Green's function is absolutely not the same as the transfer function. They are different mathematical objects, and they live in different domains. One is in time and space, the other is in frequency. But, and this is the real takeaway, they are two sides of the same coin. They contain the exact same core information about the system. Neither view is better than the other. They're just different, equally valid, and equally powerful perspectives. Look, if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. The Green's function is the impulse response. The transfer function is simply the frequency domain version of that same response. It's the same information, just viewed through a different lens.
So this leaves us with a pretty cool question to think about. If a system's entire behavior can be understood from one single tap, or from its response across all possible frequencies, which view is actually more powerful? I mean, depending on the problem you're trying to solve, which perspective is going to give you the edge?